So my name is Indrek. I am the co-founder of AlphaBlues. We are an AI startup. I say AI just with a grin. I'll tell you later why. But essentially, we build chatbots. So we built our own product and automated our customer service mostly. So today I want to talk about I guess three things. I'll first talk about like the background of like chat and AI and how we have come to the point where we are. I'll show some cases, sort of share my experience that we've learned about design. And then last, I'll also talk about like the language understanding part. When you deal with chat, and so we deal with automated chat. So like not with a human, but with a machine. So I'll also talk about like what's the current capability of actually machines understanding you guys, and then sort of shed some light on that and try to do it from a design. I'm not a designer, but I'll do my best in this audience. Just a brief background about us. So we've been doing this for a year and a half, and then we set out to automate chat because we thought that it's like an area that we can do great things in. And now we're focused on doing customer service automation mainly for banks and telecom companies, because these things have high volumes and then AI makes sense there. And then we've been part of the startup tour and now expanding out of, we're also already doing work in Nordics and Baltics and now expanding into rest of Eastern Europe and Poland as well. But kind of just to set the scene, so like there's so much talk about AI. It's kind of like 5 years ago, if you want to raise money, you said your big data, and now you say your AI, and I think like the end of this year, you're like blockchain meets VR meets AI, so then like definitely you're onto something. BS, you're not. But it's one of the things that it's a good and a bad thing, right? So what I mean by that, like it's like we're hitting total peak hype, right? So everything is AI, and it's good because Google has AlphaGo and it's beating humans, and like it's creating this thing in people's mind that like now we're ready. Like, you know what? Like now we can take it to the next step. Yes and also no. It's good that people are thinking about it, but it doesn't mean that technology has somehow like leapfrogged like eons, and now we are at this magic land where everything is possible. So ultimately, like it's all going to crash down, and it's already coming down. And I think what we try to advocate is that there is stuff that AI can do that's useful today, but there's also stuff that it cannot do. And then I see actually this year already more and more companies trying to figure out what AI can do for them. So sort of it's good that the hype is coming down and it's sort of the dust is settling. And really, when you think of it, like what it is, like it's not magic. Like it's not magic. It's just like a piece of technology that allows machines to sort of do things at scale and really fast and over again and sort of makes them very efficient, right? But it's not magic. And when you think of it, there's like not really like one thing. So there's no Skynet. So when people ask is like Skynet going to come and work on end? So I'm saying like I'm actually less worried about artificial intelligence and more worried about mankind's like natural stupidity. I think like that was a joke, so you can laugh. Somebody told me to make jokes, so I did. There we go. The woman in the back, raise her hand. But anyway, so the thinking is that AI is not some like magic stuff. It's actually woven into all kinds of products. So like when you look at this slide, then you can have, like we saw with Sensei, like it's recognizing things in objects. It's like saying there's a woman on a picture, there's a cat on a picture, right? Then you have like understanding voice, understanding text. You have credit scoring. Essentially, it's just like machine decision making woven into all kinds of areas. So there's no really like one single AI thing that's just gonna take over the world, right? It's just like it's woven into many products. And so how we like to think about it is that ultimately you end up building a product to solve a problem. Like there was a slide about the user interface disappearing. I think that the idea is a very good one because you want to get stuff done, and AI is somehow helping you do that. If it's not of use, just cut it. You don't need it. The key thing is to help the human. So when we looked at all this stuff that you can do, we said in human to machine interaction is going to be relevant in places where it's going to be a lot of questions and it's going to be repetitive. So we said, in customer service is an area where that's going to happen. So essentially what we do is we build chatbots. You can call them virtual assistants, you can call them intelligent assistants, whatever jargon thing you can think of it. Essentially it's humans talking to machines, machine understanding what they want and talking back. It's either talking or chatting. I use the terms synonymously. And so, in bigger parts, you can think of it is that, how do machines understand us? Because it can be a chatbot on a website. It can be Amazon Alexa or Google Home. So I've used Google Home now for a year. The top 3 use cases it has for me is play Spotify, and play Spotify. That's it. Of course, and also tell the weather and maybe sing my son a lullaby every once in a while, but that's about it. Like it's conversational interfaces is actually really, really hard. But we're trying to get there. And also you can think of like you can talk to cars. So like now there's a lot of hype about you going to talk to a fridge. I don't know why, but it seems sexy, I think, for Samsung to tell that you can talk to a fridge and ask something. But you have these places where people are going to talk to machines, and chat is one way to do it. So like why the chatbot hype started like 2 years ago. So Facebook Messenger opened up their API, so you could now build automated chat experiences. There was 1 year where everybody was saying it's going to kill apps. Then later they found out it's not going to kill apps, but it actually has some use cases. So why chat is good is because it's like SMS. It's just evolved, right? We don't really want to talk on the phones. It's intrusive. We just want to chat. And we also now are expecting chat interfaces to touch upon not just with people, but also with like companies, like objects, because it's very easy. I can just say like, hey, do this, and I just get the answer. It's very convenient. I don't have to call someone or talk to someone. And one thing we're realizing in customer service is that like people want stuff now. They want stuff 24/7. Like if you lose a credit card, you want to call the bank, or we want to get in touch with the bank maybe like Saturday 3 a.m. at like in front of a pub. And you want to get an answer, right? So you don't want to send emails and wait maybe like 48 hours or more. So that's sort of pushing more the expectation on people on how to interact with companies is rising. So the key thing, like when you go and think of what to do a bot, is think like, what is it for? It has to solve a use case. Like you shouldn't do bot for the sake of doing a bot. So in chat, like what is the thing it's good for? And this is some slide that talks about most use cases, but like it's usually about doing some queries or something that's very simple and repetitive, because then you have a higher chance of understanding the person. Or maybe it's booking something, making an appointment, or even selecting some products. But usually they don't go very deep, because I know some chatbots are made that you can search for flights in Messenger, but actually, like if you just go to skyscanner.com and just look at the web interface, it's much more convenient and faster than going to chat and saying from Tallinn to Helsinki in 5 days. No, in 5 days, and like it gets very complex. So there are some things that chat is good for and some things it's not. So think about what's good use case. So like a couple examples of bots. So Poncho is the one that came out. It's basically weather, and it's relatively good. So like you just ask like, is it gonna rain? Should I wear a coat? What's it like tomorrow? Is it gonna be windy? And it's actually helpful, but it does one thing and actually does it pretty well. So it's not pretending to be a lot of things, and that's why it's of a good use case. Another thing, like a common one, is TechCrunch. So it's essentially a news bot. It just feeds you articles. It's nothing magical, but basically you can select a topic, it sends you updates, and you just are constantly reminded of stuff that's maybe important for you. So these are two good use cases, relatively simple, but they do work well. Now, when we think of bots that it should be able to do more, right? It should be able to maybe understand what I'm saying. And then you run into the trouble I'll talk later about, is like, how do you actually understand what people mean? So I have two examples of bots that are, so there's two types of bots, I guess. One is sort of this rule-based and one is natural language-based. So rule-based is basically, there's a menu and it says, pick A, B, or C, and then you get an answer. Natural language-based is basically saying, hey, ask me anything like you would from a friend and I'll give you an answer. If you are bored and want to chat with a bot, go to alphablues.com. We have a bot on the website. You can curse at it or be friends with it. in the meantime. So here's an example of actually a bot. It is named Eugene Gustman. It was built by a couple of guys from Russia. Now it's shut down, but basically they built the bot to the level of intelligence of a 13-year-old boy, supposedly. And then they had people try to figure out whether it's a machine or a human. And allegedly it passed like in a Turing test, like 30% of some people said that it's a human where actually it's a machine. And you can see it from the dialogue, like, you know, it's kind of evading answers like, which is bigger, a shoebox or Mount Everest? Like, I don't really know. Like, camel has between 2 to 4 legs. Like, it's giving answers. It's not definitive, but then if you think about like it's maybe a little kid, then it also can apply in that case. So this is an example of a bot that basically tries to also have conversation in it. Another bot is actually one of the best award-winning like general language understanding bots is Mitsuku. You can go, I think it's mitsuku.com, you can check it out. That can actually have pretty decent conversation. So like when I'm saying, I said I'm John, it says awesome, I laugh, then I says, are you having fun? Then I'm saying I'm not having fun, and then it asks, why did you write ha then? Now actually that is complex to understand that kind of thinking. That, you know, you ask something, somebody responds, and you relate that in a context. So that goes beyond simply saying like, hey, select A, B, or C. So this is something that you can check out. But all of these, like all of these free conversational bots are still very, very early, and it takes time for them to develop. So I'll briefly go over some of the examples that we did for companies, sort of just to illustrate and be practical. So we worked with Lat Telecom, the biggest telco in Latvia, over Christmas time. We built them an e-commerce product recommendation bot on their website, so they have a ton of traffic. And essentially the bot was there to recommend products for people. So either you could, you know, I want to buy a product for my wife, or I want to buy something cool, or whatever it is. And essentially it guided you through some recommendations and then said, hey, it's a product you might like. Or you can just type in and ask what's the thing that you like. And actually we saw that people actually like this type of virtual sales assistant, because it's kind of like when you go to whatever, like you go to Kaubamaja and usually you ask somebody before you buy something, like, you know, to get some confirmation. So similar actually behavior probably happens on the web as well, is that you want to get some feedback from people before you buy or just consult or something like that. So people responded and actually were actively using it and improved their conversion rates. For LHV, so we did a bot for Messenger. It's live today. You can talk to it. It understands Estonian and also a bit of English. It actually uses two things. So here, like it's small, but like when you open it up, it says like you have a few options from the menu, and we include that because like not all people want to chat with the bot. Sometimes they just want to pick things because people are lazy. Like I'm lazy when I go online. I don't want to do a lot of work. So sometimes from a user point of view, from a design point of view, it's easier just to give 7 options because you know these are the top ones, and then the user clicks on it and gets an answer right away. But of course, we also have the functionality that they can just type in and say, hey, bank, like where is your ATM or something like that. So we give 2 options to make it better for users. And then what we built for Moniz is a similar thing, that when you go in the app, then basically the customer support is answered by Mo. Mo is the name of the bot and helps you out in very many cases. So these are some of the things where you have a bot that's understanding both natural language but also giving menu-based answers. Of course, like if all this is like something too much work, then essentially you can also do auto replies. Like as like TripAdvisor, I ask them something, they say, you know, hey, we'll get back to you. This is good because I immediately get an answer. This is bad because they never replied, right? And so that's one of the things when you have, whenever you put chat, like you have a customer or you have your own website, you put chat on your website, and then you say agents are not available, then don't put it at all, right? Because when I'm already there as a user and trying to engage with your company for whatever reason, you should respect me so much that you get back to me because you have put up that option. So in many times I see that if you have people doing chat, then they are not available. And so that's the reason, one reason why we start building chatbots is that they're always available. Even if they give you a bad answer or it's not accurate, they at least give you an answer, and it shows that somebody cares, even it's a machine working for the company, but they care, right? So that's important. Like these auto replies are great, but then somebody should follow up, say, hey, you had a question, what was it about? Because that makes me feel good as a human. So essentially, like I'll briefly talk about. So we built the product ourselves. Yep.
Yeah. So you said the question in the middle.
Yeah.
Is there any kind of data or experimentation about how you get through to the real people in the back office? Like, can you not have a chatbot that nags them?
Yeah. So one of the things we always build in is that I'll just explain from here. So how it works is that so we built the whole thing in the middle. Basically, we kind of built like our own Watson, because we benchmarked like Lex and Google and Watson, and we weren't really happy with it. So we wanted to build our own, so built our own. And essentially chats are coming in from the website, from Facebook, from mobile apps, whatever. Then essentially the bot is getting the question like, hey, where is the ATM? The bot understands it, answers the question, and then always asks, was it helpful? And if the people say it was helpful, then they just go away. And if people say it's not helpful, then it will connect to human support that's already working for the bank or telco or whatever, and then humans take over. So it's always that the bot is front line in our case, and then humans are the fallback mode. And this is important because most of the conversations will go to humans. And I'll explain why in the AI part. But it's if you do customer service, then the fallback to human is something you need just to provide a good experience. And kind of the ways how we set it up is in our product. So we built, this is not the AI part, this is just the answering part. So let's say if somebody asks about credit cards, then what happens is that we have a topic that's called credit card, and with that we have an associated answer. So the answer says, yes, you will get a MasterCard for sure. And that's because the AI is really poor at generating answers on its own that are accurate. It's really poor. It can do it, but it's just gibberish. So all the answers that the bots are given are pre-made. And it's a good thing because they always speak in the language of the brand. They never screw up. They never get angry. And the answer is always very concise and thought through. So here, this is the module where essentially we have around usually maybe, I guess we have around maybe 40, 50 topics, because we always tell that if you want to automate stuff, you have to go for high volume and high frequency. So automate 20% of things that generate you 80% of chat volume questions. So if somebody asks you like once a month, like I'm sending money from Nigeria to Antarctica, it's never there, like don't automate that because it's no point. It's cheaper to do with a human. And then once we realize what people are asking, then we just pull the question from this database and give it back. And usually it's about 40, 50 topics related to the company, and then it's about so there's 3 areas of things that people ask outside of like company-related stuff. One is who are you, what's your name, all that kind of stuff. Second is cursing, especially like no, everybody actually, they just go out it and just vent. And they say bad things, but of course for the bot, they doesn't care, right? So if you say like screw you bot, then the bot's like, chill out, relax, and that's it. So how long can you just fight with the machine? And the third thing is love. So people actually people have expressed love to our bots, and our bots can reply to it. It's sad because like there's loneliness is a huge problem. I think like that's a different lecture, but social media is creating a lot of loneliness. But sort of if you have no one to talk to, then you always have bots. So, maybe it makes your day brighter. So that's sort of how the bot answers. And of course, like, I think if you guys like think of it, like you are designers, I'm not, but like emojis are awesome. Like sounds simple, but like just put emojis, smiley faces, like, hey, hearts, whatever, and people respond to it and like it. Plain text is actually very boring. It's maybe too official because all of this chat language is very informal. Okay, and so last few slides about the AI. So like, oh, there's a typo. Okay, so like, so why are most bots horrible? Like, actually, they are, and I'm not claiming that our bots are perfect either. So like, the hard thing is that it's really hard to understand what people mean, right? So if I'm a human and you're a human and we're having a conversation, it's really hard for me to understand sometimes what you're probably saying. It's tons harder for a machine to understand what all of us are saying, right? And the reason is that even let's say you have a simple thing called like, where is the ATM? Then I'm going to ask, I need to take out money. Somebody's saying, I'm running out of cash. And the third person is saying, where's the ATM, right? And so the way the computer sees it is actually just like tokens or just like words or letters or a sequence of words and letters. And it's all different. So it's kind of like really hard to grasp what it means. So that's why Google Home misses. That's why Siri is so bad at times, because there's millions of ways to ask the same thing, because language is super personal, right? So if you take AI and images, it's really easy. Like you can train an algorithm to understand what a cat is, 95, 96% accuracy because the cat's a cat. But understanding language is like super hard. And like gladly for us, nobody has solved it. That's why we're in business. But it's really, really hard. So what you have to do is you actually have to build systems that understand what stuff means. And kind of the ways that we are approaching is, I'll have next three slides be a bit more technical, is that we build a system that essentially has machine learning, deep learning in it. Essentially what they are is just a bunch of algorithms. But what happens is that if we have a string of text coming in, like my salary has not arrived, then we have a ton of different algorithms that are actually trying to figure out what that means and what topic it relates to. And so each of them works differently. One of them is looking at keywords. One of them is looking at occurrence of certain words together. One of them is looking at letters, occurrence of certain letters together. And each of them, what happens is kind of like Eurovision then. They say that, hey, I think that I'm 85% confident that the answer is number 1. I'm 65% confident the answer is number 2. And so we pool those answers together and then we get a result. When somebody says, my salary's not arrived, then we think that the answer is, how long does it take money to get from SEB to Swedbank? And then we give an answer. It takes 2 business days, right? And it's all an approximation. So all of AI is just probabilistic. There's no 100%. It's like shades of gray, whatever it is, right? So, and that's how we pull it, because ultimately AI does not understand what is money. It doesn't understand what is gravity. It doesn't understand like what is color. It's like me learning Chinese. I can give you maybe 5 sentences. I don't, but I'll pretend I can. It doesn't mean I understand the language, right? I just learn it by heart. And AI is the same way. It's just looking at like tons of data patterns and then giving you an estimated guess what stuff means, right? And so Siri works the same way, Google works the same way, Amazon Alexa, they all work the same way, right? And then when you think about it, is that more technical slide, but how can we go actually beyond it? Because like you want to have a system that actually understands language better. So we've been pushing the AI envelope in our company a bit, and actually built a system where we trained it with the sentence like, I can't get money, right? So we told the system that I can't get money means this. And then we benchmarked it with 2 other companies, quite large ones. And when I ask the system, then it says, you know, it means this, right? But when I ask like no cash, then Amazon and Google don't understand it because they have never seen the word no cash before. I haven't trained the system what cash or no means, right? But we trained a system that was able to understand that money and cash and euros and krones and all that stuff is related. So it's all about like you give more semantic context to the system. And this is actually where it gets interesting and also useful, that you start sort of approximating more what stuff means. So essentially what you're trying to do with all this language-based chat understanding stuff is increase the probability that you actually understand what the person means. And there's no way you can train it with all the sentences that people are going to ask. You just have to give a good approximation. So that's from the chat part. And one of the things now we're doing is also voice, because like voice is actually something that's if you look at this, so actually voice is something that's already solved, right? So Google and Amazon have like 95% accuracy on voice to text and also then text to speech. So one of the things we're now doing is just plugging those things in so that when you ask a question like verbally, where is the ATM? Then the API takes it to text. Then we take the text and give it meaning, understand what people mean, and then take take the answer and plug it into the API, and then it says in lovely Australian accent, it takes 2 business days, right? So that's the interaction with voice. And I think like when we think of chatbots versus voice bots, then chat advantage is that it's quick. I can do it on my phone right now. Nobody hears me. Voice is slow. I have to talk to it. Does it understand me? If the answer is incorrect, then shall I try again? No, I don't really want to. So you have to think of like what's the context and how you are using it. But from our point of view, voice is also something we're plugging this into. If there's people in the audience that have interest in chatbot from the design perspective to make it better, like I think there's a ton of things we can improve, or from the voice perspective, then get in touch. And that was my last slide. So thank you.
I have a question about understanding Estonian. So how far are we with it?
As far for us, language, any European language is the same. Because with machine learning, we put Estonian training data in, and then we train the system to work in Estonian. With Portuguese, we put Portuguese data in and train it to understand Portuguese. Like there's literally little difference. So our bots currently work in 8 languages. Estonian is one of them. And for us, adding a new language is relatively simple. Because essentially machine learning is stuff in, stuff out. If the stuff in is some certain language, then the stuff out, essentially it's the same language.
Okay. And compared to Estonian versus English?
So I'd say like in Estonian, so there's like some stemming differences, like lemmatization. There's sort of some like funny characters that we have and also other smaller languages have. So that's some extra work that goes into it. And that's something that we've specifically put focus on so that we can understand like Polish, Latvian, Russian, Finnish, language like that.
How do you actually make sure that your answers when you give, even if you guess what the customer is asking, that your answers are actually up to date? So AI meaning, in my view.
Do you mean accurate or content-wise?
I just, referring to your example that you, there was this question that the customer asked how many days it takes from the bank transfer you get from SEB to Swedbank, and it takes 2 business days, whereas actually in Estonia it takes 4 times a day. So, that's the question. Like, you would imagine that AI would give you the most, the really up-to-date answer.
Okay, yeah.
It knows the stuff.
You sometimes.
Once the poor human has managed to kind of make itself clear about that, but how are you going to ensure that your answers?
Yeah. So actually, like I said, like all the answers that we have are actually predetermined, right? So it's like we're not sending AI with some crazy stuff into SEB and say they're not our customer, but saying like, hey, like figure out how long it takes. We have a text box here. And the person with the company is going to say, what is the answer to that question? If it's about money transfer, they're going to say, like, depends on from where you send the money. It can be up to 4 times a day from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So humans just put in that answer. We found that actually is the simplest one because, it's maybe if you have 40 topics, you have 40 answers. Training a system to go through and search for that information, like you get into Google search type of algorithms, and it's way too complex.
How often do you retrain the bots, like on real user data?
So we have AI trainers native in 8 languages. So whenever we input new data, like let's say we put in, I don't know, once a day or whatever, then the system is always retrained.
Like, I don't know, for example, when new slang word for money emerges and you get like a bunch of 15-year-old guys who are asking you, I don't know what.
Yeah. So so we have I didn't have that many product slides up, but so we have a statistics module. You see what type of words are asked and what bot knows and doesn't know. So it picks up that, okay, here's a keyword that like some crazy hipster slang word is out there, and we don't know what it is, the bot doesn't know, then we just take that word and phrases how that word is being used, train the bot, and then it just knows it. So, but yeah, a good question. Yeah.
So basically, if a normal person in Estonia speaks a mix of Estonian and English and Estonianizes English words, your bot is it gonna understand that?
Okay, depends exactly how you ask. If you ask like ma tahan money, okay, then it's kind of like if the bot knows no English, it's like ma tahan. Okay, so what do you want, right? You can want a ton of stuff, like a better life or a new wife or whatever it is, right? But if it's like ma tahan raha now, then it's like the now really doesn't matter because the money is the key thing there. So essentially, like if you ask for things that the bot doesn't know, it's going to approximate on the stuff that it does know. But of course, if you use, you can always screw the bot. That's fine.
So it's basically searching for keywords and just.
Keywords and patterns related to words and characters. Yeah.
So what about the voice recognition? Like, would it convert voice to text?
Yeah. So that's what we are now working on. It's just with an API converting voice to text, and then you have the same thing, text to meaning. So like with all the systems, text to meaning is really hard. Voice to text, by and large, has been solved.
Because I have thousands and thousands of mobile memos I've dictated to myself.
Yep.
I can't find anyone to read them in because they're in some weird Estonian English mix.
Okay, yeah. I think Google speech to text is, so Google's text to speech is now Estonian. Yeah, they released it like, I think 2 weeks ago. You should check it out. Yeah.
How do you scrape that except from when the customer gives it? Do you do it from, let's say, before the actual question, have you done an open domain chatbot as well?
You mean like just blank Google search box for anything? No. There's like, we had a bot and then a journalist tried it and then was like, okay, I'm going to be really clever. And then I asked like, is the word flat? And the bot didn't know. And then it says, the bot's stupid, right? So it's like, okay, we just haven't trained it. So if you do like very open domain bot, like it's just going to be mostly useless because people just not going to find answers. And also one thing with bots is that people give them 1 or 2 tries. So if you ask like a bot something and it doesn't know in the first time and second time, you're like, that's stupid, I'm just going to go away. So it's like a very thin ice you're walking on. So I would recommend doing like very focused domain-specific, problem-specific bots. Yeah. Yes.
What deep learning frameworks do you use, and what architectures also?
Yeah. So the algorithms we're using TensorFlow to run them, but essentially the algorithms we have built custom made. So it's basically with AI. It's not that you can just download stuff from GitHub and it just works. We have some LSTMs. We have some neural networks. Usually with deep learning is that you need a ton of data, and it means like a ton is like billions of queries that it starts making sense. So we found that actually some simpler mechanisms actually perform better, but usually it's a combination of a variety of algorithms. Yes.
So obviously it's fun to ask you if the bot that speaks to is over Latin or whatever, but what I'm curious about is what do you see as the actual problem with bots, or what do you hope that you guys can accomplish next as far as making the best chatbot in the world?
Yeah, I think so. What we want to do is that people actually get value of it. So they find it that it's helpful, and that means, and that's actually where design comes in. So it's not just like AI, because like understanding text is really, really hard. So what we want to get at is that we provide a combination of, let's say, this smart menu. We provide a way of approximating what a person wants. We give them answers. Like if our confidence score, whatever it was. Well, anyway, if our confidence score here is low, we don't give one answer, we give 3 answers. So we try to think of ways how we can increase our likelihood of answering people's queries. And of course, a bot is like a human. On day 1, it's not that smart doing a job, but if it learns over time, it gets smarter. So we have now some bots that are live for more than a year, and we see the result. It's increasing in its capacity.
What is your
Text, yeah, it's Python.
Python only?
Yes, so it's all the pipelines are in Python.
I have a question, but you mentioned people have said to the bot that I love you. And you brought that the loneliness aspect of the social side. So do you have any stories to tell? How have the people, regards the love side, how have they communicated with you?
Yeah, so actually, like, there's so we in general cases. So you see, like, some people are, you know, like, hey, like, who are you? You're stupid, whatever. But then they're like, then they get really affectionate and sort of, you know, they speak their mind, because it's easier to trust the machine than a person, because the machine is not judging you. And that's a very important aspect, because, like, you know, you can tell the machine anything you want, it's not gonna judge you. I think there's a couple of interesting cases that there's a Stanford psychiatrist, they built the bot that deals with, I think, loneliness or it's like general depression. And they built it from a clinical point of view to tailor, like, basically you can chat with it, like, hey, I had a bad day today. Oh, so what happened? Yeah, like, this colleague at work told you crazy. Okay, tell me about it. It's not, again, like, it's not a shrink. It doesn't understand you really, but it's built some dialogue modules that feel like you're expressing your emotions. And actually, that's a pretty powerful concept. So, like, I think, like, everywhere I go, I just say, like, do like a loneliness fighting, people making better type of bot, and it's, I think, like, that's a cool idea. Many people are working on it, so it's you know, it gives people someone or something to talk to.
Are people expressing themselves differently if they know that they are talking to bots or they're talking to a person?
Yeah, so good question. In all our cases, what we have is, if there's every time we say hi, I am automated support. So we say always, I'm a machine. So a bot never pretends to be human. Never do that. That's bad. What we found is that people don't care who they talk to, as long as they get the answer really fast. And one of the interesting things is that usually you think, oh, like, I'm talking to a machine, and, like, it's just weird. But one of the things that, like, I like to give an example is that if you, let's say, have a human customer support representative, it's like 9 a.m. and he's really pissed and hasn't had a coffee, and then, like, picks up the phone and says, hey, yeah, what's up, like, whatever, I don't care about you. Versus where you have a bot that says, hi, how are you, gives a smiley. So which of these conversations is more human, right? So I'm saying in some cases, a machine can be more human than a human, just with some, you know, being always positive. And so I think that's a really cool design element that I'd like to see also bots utilize more. And so, yeah, that's why I'm also here, is, like, if there's some ideas how to make bots conversationally more approachable and more human, not faking to be human, but, like, feel more human. I think there's actually a lot of work that can be done to make them better.
Have you been discussing something related to the marketing benefits of the bots? Because there used to be, like, features, then there were benefits for the customer, values. Now today, most important is telling the story. The bot can't relate to the story or can't tell the story.
So bots, as, like, so actually they can tell a story by keeping it to the narrative. So customer service bots are proactive. You ask something and then we're trying to answer. Sales bots are okay. So customer service bots are reactive. Sales bots are proactive. So I'm telling you, hey, like, let's say I'm selling a car, like, you know, hey, what you're here for? Do you have a family? Do you want a sports car? This is good for you. So I have a narrative, and I'm trying to keep you to the narrative. So in sales, actually, you can have that type of storytelling, which is actually a pretty interesting concept that we're also now looking to. Is actually you can have bots on your website sell products 24/7 in, like, a smart, you know, kind of smart and a non-intrusive way.
I mean, usually the customer in many cases don't actually know what they want. They think the bot thinks that that's what the customer wants, but in reality the customer wants something else.
Okay.
The customer knows the features they want, but actually what they search for, what is their value benefit, is something else.
Yeah, okay, so if you want to have a bot for really smart sales dialogue, like, no, like, you know, so hey, like, does this iPhone X have like Xeon processors or some other processor? Is it better than, like, Samsung 8? Like, you know, that's beyond the bot in a sales conversation.
Just thinking, have you discussed about having the benefits of the bot versus having the person, if the person can relate to the customer's values?
Yeah, like I think ultimately a human understands a human better and is quicker at grasping what they want. But like with La Telecom, we built a bot that essentially said, you know, hey, you want to buy something for your friend and in their house, here's like 3 TVs we recommend. That's like a bot saying, hey, here's stuff I can tell you about this case that you might like. Now, if their person says, I have more questions, then in that case, we actually route it to a human, and the human in a chat operator from telco took over and says, you know, what specific questions you have about those TVs that I can answer that the bot cannot, right? So there's the human fallback.